Good afternoon, kids. Here we are in Tirana, Albania. It's Wednesday, April the 12th, 2023. And today's topic, after having received a lot of queries about why I left Vietnam, is to give you the whole story from soup to nuts. So in 2016, after years of negotiations, the Vietnamese government passed a law that allows American citizens to either a 1 year tourist visa or a 1 year business visa. And the US government has always given favorable conditions, and I won't go into all the details, to Vietnamese citizens. So it's finally, after many years of negotiations, they put that in place for US citizens. And that law remains on the books today. It's never been repealed. So I returned from Japan in February 2020, checked in, got my 1 year visa as always, and stayed. February 2021 rolls around, and the borders are closed to inbound traffic to Vietnam. So I started getting extensions. And that went on for about 6 months or so. And I got a mysterious message from my agent in Hanoi saying, "Hey, Rick, they're not giving out any more extensions. You're going to have to leave in 14 days. So, needless to say, that didn't sit well with me because I'd lived there many years and had my entire life in Vietnam, and it was never an issue before. So, I decided to sit on it. I scrambled around and looked at different destinations, and of course, COVID was still rampant, and it was a real mess to try and go anywhere, and a very stressful situation. And finally, I just decided I'm going to stay. So I did that. And in August 22, that's last year, a year later, I finally found an agent that I could trust because most of them are really not very credible and don't have any qualifications for what they do. And he was in Da Nang, so that suited me fine. I don't really like traveling in and out of Saigon. So off I went to Da Nang. He told me it would take a couple of weeks to organize my overstay, the fine, and all this other stuff, and 300 pounds of paper, and no problem. It ended up taking 4 weeks, and that was a bit of a stretch, but still okay. And I left. Now, since that time, Vietnam has reopened, but only gives out 30-day non-extendable tourist visas, which of course is ridiculous because Vietnam is a huge country and 30 days isn't even enough for a lot of people who have written me about that problem and asked how to solve it. Not to speak of people like me who are actually living there, and Vietnam does not have a retirement visa, so that was their compromise over the years. So, of course, both the agent and immigration were shocked that I was not going to run back and forth over the border every 30 days, chasing all their papers around. So this is the second point of this missive today, is you need to understand, we need to understand that we hold all the cards and the country we're visiting holds none. Okay? I'm a retiree, I have a fixed pension, I make a great contribution to wherever I go, and that's very well chronicled. The kind of guy that knows everybody and is well respected in the community. So that's where the good old Asian con job comes into this discussion. All these developing countries in ASEAN, they play the same song, hoping that we'll fall for it. That they think their place is wonderful, and so we should pay them, and we should kiss their asses, and we should do this, and we should do that, and it's exactly the wrong way around. Once you go down that happy trail, you're running after them forever. So my stance remains, and always has been, that when I visit your country, nobody respects you more than me, your customs, your way of doing things, and what you value. But you will respect me in return and treat me fairly. So I've written a couple of times that Vietnam is the best place I've ever lived, and that's true. But that doesn't mean I have any intention of going back there. It's just a fact. For me, it's the best place I ever lived. Excuse me. So, uh, in the current scheme of things, they're now talking about putting the 3 month tourist visa back in place. And so I'm getting all these messages. Oh, when are you coming back? When are you coming back? I'm not going back for 3 months. I'm not going to run in and out all the time and spend all my time and money jumping through all these hoops just so I can spend my 30 million Vietnam dong a month in their economy. Okay, that's just not fair. And the same thing goes for quite a few of the other countries there. Like Thailand wants $23,000 deposit for their 1 year retirement visa. Now, would you pay $23,000 for the right to spend your money in their country? How about Malaysia? They want about 80,000 US dollars a deposit to get their 10-year MM2H Malaysia My Second Home visa. Now, would you give them 280,000 ringgit? I don't think so. The only two countries that really have a decent formal program are the Philippines, where it's dirt cheap and your income requirements are also cheap, and Indonesia is not bad, but lots of bureaucracy with both of them. And I don't like either of them that much, although Bali is quite tempting. Cambodia doesn't have an official program, but if you wink at the guy and slip a few bucks, he'll give you a year visa. But that depends on the person you bump into at immigration and all this other stuff. So the whole thing is predicated upon them trying to spin it so that they have something that we desperately need, and that's not true. And I have proven it, and I am continuing to prove it. I got on my little bike and went to Georgia. I got to immigration. The lady says, "Hi, how are you? Welcome to Georgia." Takes my passport, gives me a 1 year stamp. Boom, I'm in. That's it. I haven't paid anyone, talked to anyone, filled out any forms, dealt with any agents or anything else. The only issue was I didn't like Georgia. But hey, despite studying it at length for a long time, that's what happened. And fine, so I got on my bike again and I came here to Albania. Now I'm a dual citizen. I'm a Canadian by heart, and my original passport is Canadian, but I also hold a US passport because I lived in the US for 16 years. So in the case of Albania, for American citizens, and only for American citizens, which is out of gratitude for all the support that Albania gets from the US, and Albania is kind of stuck in the middle. It's certainly not tied and never has been to the Soviet regime, nor does it really connect with the European Union. It is a NATO member, so that is one good thing. And Albania applied many years ago for EU to join the EU, but that hasn't happened, and it all takes a long, long time. So in the meantime, show up in Albania. Oh, hello, how are you? Nice to have you. Give them my passport. Boom, 1 year. End of story. They're not treating me as if I'm lucky to get in there and spend my money. And so that's really the crux of it. We see how Vietnam, in this case, has twisted the rules and ignored their own laws when it suited them, and then start this 30-day routine, and then everybody's going to be so grateful when they finally put in longer visas that they'll have gotten away with it, and it's just not fair to me. In the meantime, if there's any hassles anywhere, I'll just get on my bike and go somewhere else, and there are lots of options. I haven't even been back to South America yet. That's a whole different kettle of fish. There's lots of places to go and lots of ways to get things done. So there you have it. It's twofold, really. Why did I leave Vietnam? I just didn't like that treatment. And number two, beware of the Asian developing country con job, because they all try it. They don't have any different sand than anybody else does, and their water's just like everybody else's. So that's just my take on it. Thanks, kids.